I never believed betrayal could feel like drowning until the night I stumbled upon the truth. It wasn't a dramatic discovery, no screaming confrontation, no hidden lover caught in the act. It was a quiet moment, a glance at her phone left unlocked, a message thread filled with words that weren't meant for me. Promises of love, not whispered to me, but to someone else, sweetened by the glitter of money. My world didn't explode. It caved in silently, suffocating me from the inside. She sold love for a price, and I realized I was just collateral. I didn't confront her. That would have been too easy for her, too dramatic, too messy. Instead, I let silence do the talking. I kissed her goodnight, smiled at her lies, and pretended I was still blind. She thought she was clever, that I was too naive to see the shadows around her eyes, too trusting to notice how her touch grew colder. But I knew every word, every meeting, every secret. She had traded loyalty for luxury, and I made the quiet decision that changed everything. I wouldn't scream. I would destroy. Revenge doesn't come from anger. It comes from patience. I started watching her carefully, what she wanted, what she feared, who she needed to keep her illusions alive. She was building a life on lies, and lies are fragile. All I had to do was breathe the right way and her world would fracture. But I waited. I wanted her to feel safe, to believe her little empire of deceit was unshakable. Because when it collapsed, it wouldn't just fall, it would bury her beneath its weight. She paraded me like a trophy in front of friends, all while hiding her affair like it was some prize she had earned. The irony wasn't lost on me. She thought she was winning, that I was still blind. But every smile she wore, every lie she told, I filed away like evidence in a trial that hadn't yet begun. I didn't need to catch her red-handed. I already had the truth, and that truth was enough to sharpen the blade of silence I planned to cut her life with. I started with her friends. People trust smiles more than words, and I learned how to plant seeds without speaking directly. A single raised eyebrow, a carefully timed hesitation, a subtle remark left half-finished, suspicion grew like wildfire. She didn't notice at first, too busy chasing the comfort of her secret affair, but whispers have power, and whispers are faster than lies. Soon her friends stopped looking at her the same way. Doubt settled in their eyes. I never had to say a word. Money. That was her weakness, her reason, her poison. She loved the shine of it more than the warmth of my love. So I made it vanish slowly. Bank accounts she thought were secure suddenly had errors. Credit cards stopped working at the worst possible moments. She blamed the bank, cursed technology, and panicked when small luxuries slipped from her grasp. To her, money was air, and I was turning off the oxygen valve. Watching her suffocate in silence was the sweetest cruelty I had ever known. Her lover? He was no savior. I found out quickly. He was using her, draining her as much as she drained me. Two parasites feeding on each other, pretending it was love. I didn't need to expose him. I just had to let her believe in him long enough to fall harder. Because when the truth about him arrived, it wouldn't just break her. It would crush her spirit entirely. I smiled when I saw them together, knowing I had already set the stage for their downfall. She accused me of being distant. Imagine that. She, the betrayer, daring to question my silence. I told her I was tired, distracted by work, nothing serious. She seemed relieved, thinking I was still in her grasp. What she didn't know was that my silence wasn't weakness, it was a weapon. Every day she lied to my face, I grew colder, stronger, sharper. Every kiss she gave that tasted like betrayal was fuel for the fire I was quietly building. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted justice. She had stolen years from me, my love, my trust, my belief in forever. She had reduced me to a pawn in her selfish game. I refused to let her walk away unscarred. If love was a war, then she had fired first. And if betrayal was a currency, then I would bankrupt her soul. My plan was never about screaming or breaking plates. It was about breaking her mask, piece by piece, until everyone saw the truth. The first cracks appeared when her closest friend confronted her. Not directly about the affair, but about her behavior, her lies, her secrets, her greed. I stood in the background, watching her stumble through excuses. Her friend's eyes told me everything. She didn't believe her anymore. That was the beginning. One by one, her circle shrank. Trust vanished. Support disappeared. She thought it was bad luck. I knew it was karma wearing my fingerprints. I tightened the net slowly. Her lies no longer found solid ground because the people around her were no longer willing to believe them. She tried harder, weaving new stories to cover the old ones. But lies are heavy, and eventually they crushed her. I didn't rush. I let her sweat under the pressure of her own words, watching her stumble from one excuse to another. The woman who once walked with pride now tripped over her own tongue. That was the beauty of quiet revenge. It needed no noise to break her. Her affair grew colder. The man she sacrificed me for stopped treating her like a prize and started treating her like an option. She panicked. I could see it in her eyes, hear it in the tremble of her voice when she spoke of him. She thought she was climbing higher, but really, she was falling into a pit I had quietly dug. And I didn't need to push her into it. Her own choices pulled her down. All I had to do was watch her tumble, step by step, toward the bottom. She tried to run back to me in small ways. Sudden affection, random gifts, fake apologies. I accepted them with a smile, never letting her see that I already knew the truth. To her, I was still the safety net, the backup plan she thought would always be there. But safety nets aren't meant to last forever. One day she'd reach for me and find nothing but air. That moment was coming, and I savored the thought of her free fall. I began to expose her quietly, not by shouting or accusing, but by revealing small truths at the right time. Screenshots slipped into the right hands, receipts forwarded to the right people. Whispers whispered into the right ears. The picture they painted wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. Her reputation began to collapse, not from a scandal, but from erosion, slow, constant, unstoppable. She didn't even realize I was the tide pulling the ground out from under her. The man she betrayed me with finally showed his true colors. He used her, drained her, then discarded her like yesterday's trash. She was left desperate, clinging to the illusion of love that had already rotted away. I didn't need to celebrate. It wasn't victory. It was inevitability. When she tried to call me, her voice trembling, I let the phone ring. The silence between us was louder than any scream. She chose him over me, and now she had nothing. I could have stopped. I could have let her suffer with her own mistakes. But revenge is addictive, and justice still felt incomplete. She had taken years of my life, and years demand more than silence. So I pressed harder. Opportunities she counted on disappeared. Friends she relied on vanished. Jobs she thought were secure dissolved into nothing. Every corner she turned, she found another wall. She thought the world was against her, but it was only me pulling strings in the shadows. She tried to rebuild, started an online fundraiser claiming she was a victim of abuse, said I ruined her life, posted blurry pictures and half-truths. I let her scream into the void, because behind every post, I had receipts, proof of every lie, every theft, every betrayal. When people started to believe her, I released the truth, slowly, strategically. I didn't need to defend myself. The facts did it for me. The fundraiser, taken down. Her followers turned on her. She begged me for forgiveness after that. Messages filled with desperation, with regret, with fake apologies dripping from every word. She said she missed me, that she loved me, that she made mistakes. But forgiveness is not a gift owed to betrayers. I read her words with the same emptiness she once gave me. I didn't reply. She had chosen money, chosen lies, chosen betrayal. And now she was left with nothing but silence, the same silence she had forced me to live with. Time passed, and her world remained broken. I had moved on, lighter without her weight. She, meanwhile, wandered in the ruins of her own making. She thought karma was some mystical force, but the truth was simpler. Karma was me. I became the balance to her betrayal, the shadow to her false light, the quiet justice she never expected. Every tear she shed, every sleepless night she endured, it was the price she paid for selling her soul for coins. And now when I see her, she avoids my eyes. She knows. She knows that I know. She knows that every brick of her downfall carries my fingerprints. But I don't need her acknowledgement. I don't need her apology. I already won the day she betrayed me because I discovered her truth and survived it. Love can break you, betrayal can shatter you, but silence can rebuild you. And my silence became her sentence. That is the ending she earned.